So let's start with the research process. As a research student, आपको मालूम होना चाहिए कि what are the steps you're going to take in order to pursue your research. वो किसी भी type की research हो. तो let's have a look at this diagram. So it is complex, but one by one we'll go through it and we'll understand कि जो research processes में different steps कौन से हैं. So a normal way of pursuing research for a PhD or for an MS student is कि वो relevant literature, scientific knowledge के बारे में उसने literature पढ़ा है. I've gone through whatever the other researchers have researched about the topic at hand, और उसने उसके अंदर से कोई जो है ना gap identify कर लिया कि ये एक चीज़ है जो कि नई है, लोगों ने नहीं किया, and that is my gap, and based on that gap you arrived at the problem कि ये problem exist करती है at this time regarding this topic जो कि आप research कर रहे हो. Or another way of doing research is कि the industry itself presents a research problem कि ये एक problem exist करती है, it needs solution. तो from there also जो है ना research student can arrive at a research problem. The novelty इनके कोई एक नई चीज़ that hasn't been done, and in terms of industrial relevance के इंडस्ट्री में ये इस चीज़ की ज़रूरत है कि ये वाला प्रॉब्लम जो है ना हल हो सके या उसका सोल्यूशन आ सके. So you as a research student will understand that problem in such a way कि आप उसको properly conceptualize कर सको. तो देखो अपनी प्रॉब्लम को हम एक normal terms या as a layman language नहीं लिख सकते. There has to be a proper formal way of writing your problem, और वो है कि you have to conceptualize it कि आप क्या किस चीज़ को understand करना चाह रहे हो in terms of particular phenomena. आपकी जो jargon या आपकी जो terminology है वो ठीक होनी चाहिए, और आप वो problem है क्या itself, that should be conceptualized. So you arrive at research questions. Maybe इस problem को conceptualize करने के लिए आपको 3-4 बातें पूछनी पड़े, right? Or it could be only you only have one research question जो कि इस problem को answer करने के लिए आप वो सवाल पूछ रहे हो. So after you've conceptualized your problem and you have a couple of research questions, तो at the same time उसी problem से relevant आप methodological literature को study करते हो कि it could be either कि the topic that you're pursuing उस field में उस scientific knowledge में कौन से methods इस्तेमाल किए गए हैं, या फिर overall from a research methodology perspective you find out कि वो कौन से methods हैं literature में मौजूद हैं that can allow you to answer your research questions. So you find out the approach towards answering those questions, और उसके accordingly आप अपना study design करते हो. Now this is very important. See this, when you have multiple research questions, or even अगर एक research questions भी है, तो there might be multiple approaches to it कि आप उसको उस research question का answer कर सकते हो, right? So if you have multiple research questions, or even if you have one research question जो कि आपने multiple methods से उसको या multiple approaches से उसको answer करना है, that will constitute your study design. कि ऐसा आप design क्या है आपका solution के ऊपर आने का, to arrive at a solution, what is your design या आपकी planning क्या है उसमें. So once you have that study design, you'll go and actually conduct your research according to that design of your study, और फिर you'll have results. अब अक्सर बेशर ऐसे हो सकता है कि you have multiple studies over here कि पहली study की, फिर दूसरी study की, फिर तीसरी study की, या फिर you have कि पहला जो मेरा method था उसे apply किया, दूसरा method था उसे apply किया, तीसरा method था उसे apply किया. So once one at a time you'll be coming across the results of those studies या the results of those जो भी अपने approach इस्तेमाल किया. So once you have the result of one of the study, so that means again you have to go through the cycle again. That might be able to answer one of your research questions, या it will be able to answer a part of your research question. So again दोबारा after conduction of that one of those study and you have the result for it, आप दोबारा उस cycle से गुजरोगे. And then again, if there is another study that you need to carry out, तो दोबारा आप उसको you will again be repeating this cycle कि आपने उसको conduct किया, you have the results, and then those results were able to answer one of the research questions या part of the research question जो आपने किया until, and you keep on iterating until you finally have the complete answer to the research question जो कि एक है, या फिर you have the complete answer to all of the research questions जो कि आपने यहाँ पे post किया. So this cycle continues until you get answer to a research question fully, completely. You get answers to all of the research questions जो कि आपने इस problem को solve करने के लिए पूछे थे, right? So this is not where you have to stop your research. After arriving at your solution, आपको ये भी तो पता होना चाहिए कि आपका solution work भी कर रहा है या नहीं, whether it was able to solve the problem जो कि in the beginning आपने identify की थी. So उसके लिए, in order to know whether your solution works or not, comes the validation. Validation क्या है? You need to show कि आपका solution काम करता भी है या नहीं. And there are two ways. One of the ways is कि आप अपने results को जो previous लोगों ने काम किया हुआ है उससे जो है वो previous work को as a yardstick बनाकर आप अपने results को उसके साथ जो है ना measure करें. या दूसरा तरीका क्या हो सके, आप उसको the solution that you have provided, you see its applicability in the industry. सही है? So you can validate by the previous scientific literature, previous knowledge के उसके around आपका जो solution है वो कहाँ stand करता है, या फिर you just go into the industry and you see its applicability. And then after that you go for the publication. And this is important because जो आपने चीज रिपोर्ट नहीं की हुई वो नॉलेज नहीं बन सकता. So you publish it, and as a result, since there was a gap, तो आपने यहाँ पे novelty create की, new knowledge create किया in order to fulfill this gap, and as a result वो scientific knowledge where you जो before you started जो exist करता था, and now when you finish and you published it, उसमें जाके वो body of knowledge में वो add हो गया. Or in this case न्यू नॉलेज कैसे क्रिएट किया कि जो इंडस्ट्री की जो प्रॉब्लम थी वो हल होगी, एंड बिकॉज ऑफ योर रिसर्च और बिकॉज ऑफ द नॉलेज दैट यू क्रिएटेड दे अडॉप्टेड इट, the industry adopted it, and as a result that your publication contributed towards the new knowledge जो कि इंडस्ट्री में इस्तेमाल हो रहा है, right? So this is how a research process looks like. क्या problem you start with the problem and then you do the study, उसकी validation करते हैं, and then you do the publication. So let's have a look at this step a little bit in detail so that we can understand. One of the ways in which you can actually आप study अपनी conduct कर सकते हो जो आपका solution है is through this cycle. ठीक है? There are other cycles as well, लेकिन just for the sake of understanding, let's focus on one. Okay, in the beginning, you had set of ideas about the phenomena that you're, researching. Abhi at the start, you haven't conducted your study, लेकिन आपके पास शुरू में थोड़े से ideas हैं, that you know of, और आप समझते हो अगर आप उन ideas को लेके आते हो अपने research में, तो they will be able to give you results in such a way कि आपका solution, it will give you the solution to the problem that you're researching. So you start with the ideas, or own ideas को you have to hypothesize them. You do the hypothesis, and then you test those hypotheses by getting the data. That is called the empirical observation. Or on empirical observation की you do the analysis, and or analysis आपको find it tells you, the analysis will tell you कि जो आपके ideas थे at the beginning that you formed वो ठीक भी है या नहीं. So I'll give you an example. Previously जाते हैं कि the research that you're pursuing is about in machine learning, and it is about the diagnosis of a specific kind of heart disease, right? तो आपने previous knowledge the previous scientific knowledge on machine learning and heart disease diagnosis के बारे में पढ़ा, and you found a problem gap in there, right? और आपने problem formulate कर लिया accordingly. It could be maybe you found out कि जो one kind of algorithm, let's to make it very simple, one kind of algorithm which is SVM, वो अच्छा predict करता है, accuracy देता है regarding a particular heart disease. And then you also found out the literature कि there's another algorithm available, naive Bayes, जो कि maybe in other areas उसने अच्छा perform किया है. So problem क्या exist करती है, लोगों ने heart disease diagnosis naive Bayes के थ्रू जो है ना एल्गोरिथम के थ्रू उन्होंने प्रेडिक्शन नहीं की थी, राइट? This is a very simple a problem जो कि I'm giving you an example so that you understand this cycle, right? So आपने problem formulate कर लिया, and the research question आपने formulate कर लिया कि whatever that is, okay, what is the predictive accuracy of naive Bayes algorithm in the diagnostic of a particular heart disease, right? So आपका research question में over here, in the study design, you have certain ideas about that, and that is कि आपका idea है कि naive Bayes जो आपका algorithm है, maybe it should have a particular kind of, it should perform better based on the previous literature, या कोई अगर theoretical model मौजूद है in other researchers, so from there you get the idea. Over here, the idea in this particular example came from कि naive Bayes maybe ज़्यादा अच्छा perform करे, that it came from the previous literature, जो कि as a machine learning researcher आपको मौजूद है कि in other medical areas में या other medical predictions में वो इस्तेमाल हुआ है, right? So this is the idea that you formed. अब उस idea को आपने hypothesis बनाना है. What hypotheses are? They are testable prediction about the relationship between variables that you're studying. So here, your hypothesis, you make that idea into something that should be testable. Or here, hypothesis आप क्या बनाओगे कि ये जो naive Bayes है, that will perform, the algorithm naive Bayes will perform better in predicting in diagnosing a particular heart disease in terms of its accuracy, कि उसकी accuracy बेहतर होगी. So this is a testable prediction कि आप test कर सकते हो कि वाकई में ये algorithm, when you actually apply it या आपको इस्तेमाल करते हो in doing prediction of a heart disease, तो क्या वाकई में वो accuracy आपको ठीक देगा या नहीं देगा? So you have hypothesized your set of ideas जो कि आपके आए from the previous literature. So the next step over here would be actually measuring it, okay? And here you can measure the accuracy. कि आपने test bed लगाया and you conducted certain experiments, and over there you were able to measure that accuracy. कि आपके पास number आ गया. And then doing multiple experiments, you arrived at, you did a analysis of all those experiments जो उनके results आए, and you did an analysis, and finally you were able to test कि जो आपके ideas थे वो वाकई में correct थे या नहीं थे. In this case, maybe you got the accuracy के पुराने literature में SVM के through जो accuracy आ रही थी, that was something like 80% in diagnosing that particular heart disease. But when you use naive Bayes, तो वो 90% होगी. So here, that analysis will tell you कि आपका जो ideas थे, जो आपने research question के around, जो आपका research question था, has this been answered or not? तो after this, जब आपने ये study conduct कर ली, तो of course you need to validate that. या जो result आया, you need to validate that. तो ये आपकी validation कैसे हुई? Based on previous scientific research, one of the ways you can go and see कि जो predictive accuracy है in diagnosing heart diseases of the relevant literature वो अभी तक किस perspective किस नंबर तक पहुंची है. So you see that कि कुछ कहते हैं 80%, कुछ कहते हैं 81.1%, and here your result says that it is 91%. So you pretty much have a yardstick in terms of previous literature that validates the results या solution of the problem जो कि आपने पोज किया. On the other hand, अगर आपका यहाँ पे जो result है that is lesser, so here it is validated कि if you get the accuracy of 70%, so that means कि आपने problem जो है ना यहाँ पे whatever problem that was वो आपने सही तरीके that hasn't been solved या वो solution ठीक नहीं है उसका. Or another way of validation over here comes के आप जाएं you go into actual what do you call it, hospital, वहाँ से actual लोगों का data लें, which is the diseases जो आ रही हैं, the data that you have on people, whatever factors that you're using in that, और फिर उस actual real data के ऊपर आप अपना algorithm लगा के देंगे and देखें कि whether it predicts the accuracy, actual में predict करता है नहीं करता. Or to put it in a simple words, आप देखें कि जो डॉक्टर प्रोडक्ट कर रहा है और आपका जो मशीन लर्निंग का एल्गोरिथम ने जो प्रोडक्ट किया है उसके अंदर कितनी whatever how close that is toward in terms of कि डॉक्टर की प्रोडक्शन कैसी और आपके एल्गोरिथम की प्रोडक्शन कितनी है. So validation could be based on the previous literature or it could be from the industry. Previous literature में maybe आपने previously जो भी data set इस्तेमाल किए इसके अंदर उसके context में आप अपनी validation कर रहे हो, या industry में अगर आपने validation करनी है तो that is on the real data कि आपने अपना जो solution बनाया वो वाकई में काम करता है या नहीं करता. And of course then that is going to be followed by the publication, and as a result it will either create new knowledge if it's आपने जो yardstick आपने validation की थी that was based on the previous knowledge, या फिर it will create a new knowledge in terms of industry के there the software that you're going to propose based on on your research वो इस्तेमाल होगा in the industry, or that will fulfill or that will उस gap को address करेगा जो कि in the beginning identify हो गया. So see this, ये जो आपने study की whatever that is you try to answer your research question through by making use of naive Bayes and SVM algorithms, लेकिन ये you did that by following a particular research method. ठीक है, आपने कोई एक research method उठाया which in this case was an experimental research, experiment किया और उसकी बेस के ऊपर आपने उस research method की बेस के ऊपर डेटा कलेक्ट किया और फिर आपने डेटा एनालाइज किया and then you wrote it. तो ये सब कुछ है जो what we actually see, जो हमें नजर आती है what research is about, or as a researcher what we see, these are the things that we see. लेकिन research की दुनिया में having a research method and then doing our collection of data, doing the analysis of our data, and then publication, that is only the tip of the iceberg. The research itself, it's an iceberg जिसकी जो हमें जो नजर आता है that comprises of this. Research method कर लिया, identify कर लिया, collect कर लिया data, analyze कर लिया data को. This is only what we see, and that is only a small portion. उसके नीचे क्या है? That is actually the philosophical assumptions, right? And these philosophical assumptions actually are the research paradigm. तो देखें आपका what we see, most of the researches that are going on या जो हम लोग research paper पढ़ते हैं तो हमें ये ज़्यादा नज़र आता है. That is, we only see the tip of the iceberg. और जो नीचे उसके क्या है, what is unseen, that is actually are the philosophical assumptions that actually drive our research, the drive कि हमने कौन सा research method adopt किया in order to answer that research question or in order to solve that problem. और फिर of course आगे के उस research method के against हमने कैसे data collect किया, analyze कैसे किया, and then we wrote it down. So what we see is the research process, or जो कि most of the research में हमारे सामने है, the researcher are able to grasp it because it is described properly. लेकिन जो चीज़ हम नहीं देखते as a researcher, or most of the researchers do not actually know, that is actually the philosophical assumptions underlying their research method, जो कि research paradigm बनाता है.